This is a brand new 2021 Giant TCR Advanced SL. We might be in a lockdown, but it hasn't stopped Giant Bicycles from launching a brand new road race bike. Here's everything you need to know about this new bike. The TCR is a long-running model in the company's range, now in its 9th generation, and you have to go right back to the mid-90s to see the launch of the original TCR when it first arrived on the scene. Who here is old enough to remember that bike when it first arrived in a pro peloton? Let me know down below. So this is the fastest TCR ever produced according to the company's claims. It's a brand new bike, but you have to look really close to see what's new because it looks so similar to the previous model. Now, I got a good first look at the bike at Omloop Het Nieuwsblad, the first spring classic back in early March, where Greg van Avermaet, the Olympic champion, was riding the new bike. It hadn't been officially launched then, but rumours were swirling around the internet that a new bike had been raced for quite a few months. As is normal procedure with new road race bikes, they're put into the pro teams to get some last minute feedback before they arrive on the shop floor and we, the consumers, can go and buy these new bikes. So what is new? Well, it's aero, which is following a trend in the cycling world at the moment. There's space for wide tyres, which is another trend, with space for up to a 32mm wide tyre, so much bigger than most road race bikes can currently accommodate. It's also lighter, which is to be expected. It retains the stiffness of the previous model, so the stiffness to weight ratio has increased, and there's some other nice little details on it as well, which we'll get into in a minute. It's also worth pointing out at this early stage in this video that you can have your TCR Advanced SL with either disc brakes or rim brakes. So they're fully backing rim brakes. They're not abandoning rim brakes like many manufacturers are with the latest race bikes. So disc brakes, rim brakes, whatever you want, you can have this bike with either. The TCR has gone aero. It's not all out aerodynamics like many road race bikes. Of course, they had their Propel and all out aero bike if you want the fastest bike. So they've added aerodynamics where they can without compromising the weight and the handling and other key aspects that the Giant TCR has always stood for. They use a truncated tube profile for every section of the frame, so the down tube, the seat post, the head tube and the fork blades. And they've designed the frame with 2 water bottles in mind, which makes a lot of sense because most of us ride with at least 2 water bottles. And Giant claims it's 34 seconds faster than the old TCR at 40 kilometers and 200 watts. Now, you can make what you want from that aero claim. Some aero claims are ridiculous, but 40 kilometers at 200 watts, that's fairly achievable for many of us club level cyclists in a chain gang or club run. So that's a fairly reasonably real world realistic claim there, not unlike some of the 50 kilometer an hour unachievable aero claims that many bike manufacturers come out with. They clearly haven't gone all out aero with this new TCR. Of course, they have the Propel, a dedicated aero bike if you want an aero race bike. And the TCR, they've added aero where they can. And the TCR is a bike that's always stood for that balance of low weight and high stiffness and perfect handling for every situation you might find yourself in. So they've tried to add aero without compromising those key pillars of design with the TCR. One good example of this is at the front of the bike. Now, a key buzzword we hear a lot in the bike world is integration, and it usually means a one-piece handlebar and stem with all the cables and hoses internally routed to minimise the drag, give a nice clean frontal surface area, and it always looks good as well. But there are downsides. You can't service it as easily, you can't make fit adjustments to the stem length or the handlebar width, and if you have to do maintenance yourself, if you're a privateer racer, it can be a bit tricky without a pro support mechanic at standby. So this is a clear approach that Giant has taken to ensure the TCR is a bike that the privateer racer, the normal consumer like you and I, can easily work on the bike without needing that pro level mechanic. So we have a regular 2-piece handlebar and stem. There's aerodynamics with an aero shaped handlebar, and the cables aren't fully internally routed like we've seen on some bikes. So they're not going for every ounce of aero they can. They kept it fairly realistic in terms of being able to work on it, change stem, handlebar, and cable routing that is going to be easy to live with in the long term. Of course, the new TCR is lighter than the previous model it replaces. That's to be expected. We expect every new road race bike to be lighter than the one it replaces. But the gains are getting smaller and smaller as we're reaching a sort of pinnacle, a peak of road frame design. and those weight savings have been getting a lot smaller. But Giant, with the new TCR, claims a whopping 140 gram saving over the old TCR, which is quite staggering, and it makes me wonder, how was the old TCR so heavy? Now, much of that weight saving is down to refining the carbon fibre layup, the way the carbon fibre is laid up in the frame, and making some changes there, but also in the paint. Yes, they saved 60 grams by using a really thin, wafer-thin coat of paint, and it just shows how much weight paint can add to a frame. The new frame weight is a claimed 765 grams for a size medium, which puts it in the same ballpark as one of the lightest production bikes you can buy, the Trek Amonda, which I tested a few years ago in a video linked above to that review, which you can go check out if you want as well. The stiffness of the frame is a key requirement with a road race bike like the TCR, more than an aero bike or an endurance bike. Then the stiffness to weight ratio, a key factor in determining how the bike is going to perform, has gone up a lot compared to the previous TCR. And stiffness to weight ratio was a key factor with the previous TCR, so it's something that Giant has clearly tried to chase to improve that metric as much as possible. Now let's move on to some more real world practical considerations, and tyre clearance is something that we're seeing improving on all bikes, regardless whether they're a road race bike, an aero bike or a gravel bike. And the new TCR will take up to a 32mm wide tyre, which is huge, insane for a road race bike. That's what we expect from an endurance bike, not a road race bike. Most of the current road race bikes you can buy, like a Cannondale Super 6 Evo, Specialized Tarmac, Canyon Ultimate, what else can I add in there? A Trek Amonda as well. They all take about a 28mm wide tyre, which is wide enough for most applications those bikes are going to be used for. But by going to 32, really opens up the TCR to a much broader, wider range of cycling users. So road race, yes, clearly. Mountain climbing, definitely. But also endurance, long distance comfort. So an interesting direction that a road race bike is going in, and really makes it a much more versatile bike with a broader appeal than ever before. Giant has also refined, slightly modified the geometry, not by much. You have to look really closely to see where they've changed it. The bottom bracket is one key detail, and that's lowered by 2mm, which is not much, but it does help to account for the bigger tyres. So a bigger tyre is usually taller, raises the bottom bracket and the axles, so by lowering the bottom bracket a little bit, they retain that stable handling they want in the TCR. The chainstays have been kept really, really short, and I mean race bike short, just 405mm. So that's very impressive, despite the fact that it has much bigger tyre clearance than ever before. They have lengthened the overall wheelbase, so that means they put more front centre in, and that extra wheelbase in tandem with the low bottom bracket should give a slightly more stable planted handling, which would be a real benefit for people doing long distance rides who want that race bike speed and handling, but long distance comfort and stability. Are there any downsides to the new TCR? Well, I haven't ridden it yet, so I can't comment on how it performs, but a couple of observations. First, Giant has stuck with its integrated seat mast, which has been a key feature on top-end TCR bikes for many, many years, going right back to the original one pretty much. There are benefits in terms of aerodynamics, weight and compliance, the way they can tune the carbon fibre in that integrated seat mast. And it looks good, I think it looks really cool. But downsides are you have to take a hacksaw to your brand new bike, which is a terrifying experience. So best left to your local bike shop mechanic, unless you're really confident. And the other possible downside with the whole movement from press fit back to external threaded bottom brackets, with Specialized going back to a threaded bottom bracket on its latest Roubaix across the board, and with Trek also adopting threaded bottom brackets on some of its new bikes like the Damani. It's just a shame they didn't use this opportunity to offer a threaded bottom bracket, maybe on the lower end models only. The TCR, or Total Compact Road, to use its full name, was first launched by Giant in the mid-90s, and was actually designed by Mike Burrows, the same genius who developed and designed that iconic Lotus 108 that Chris Boorman famously rode to Olympic success in Barcelona. So what the TCR represented was a bike with a really sloping top tube and a very small rear triangle, and through just 3 sizes when it launched, Giant could offer the same range of fit options as a traditional geometry bike with a horizontal top tube and 10, 11, 12 sizes in some case, and offer all that range with just a limited size run. And that offered huge cost savings because they're producing 3 frames rather than 12 frames, and accommodating through stem lengths and different seat post lengths. So it's a radical reinterpretation of how you fit a rider to a bike or fit a frame to a rider. And it was a revolution when it launched and shocked loads of people. Some people even tried to get UCI to ban it, but they didn't. And the TCR has gone on to be one of the most successful race bikes in modern history. And it's a bike that pretty much all modern road bikes now owe a lot to, because most manufacturers gradually, eventually adopted this idea of a compact frame geometry with sloping top tube and smaller triangles and a smaller size run than traditional manufacturers were doing at the time when it launched. I've always liked Giant bikes, going right back to a Giant TCR Advanced I rode in the mid-2000s, and I actually won my first 4th Cat road race at Hillingdon in South London on a Giant TCR bright blue bike with the latest Shimano Dura-Race and Mavic Casirian wheels. I'll try and find a picture if I can. So yeah, I have a soft spot for Giant bikes. I've always liked Giant bikes that I've ridden over the years since I won my first road race on that Giant TCR. But sadly, they sort of go under the radar a bit and don't quite get the recognition they deserve. Their marketing isn't quite as slick, as polished, as sexy as other brands. But Giant do all the engineering, all the design, all the manufacturing themselves. One of the biggest bike companies in the world. And they do everything from the carbon fibre arriving in its raw state in one end of the factory and a really nice bike coming out the other end and arriving on the shop near you. So they have total control over the process. They've done some fantastic design over the years and they produce some really good bikes, and the TCR is one of the best bikes you can buy. Just a shame it doesn't get the recognition that it really deserves and is overlooked quite often by other, as I said, sexier brands. Giant also offers great value for money. You get a lot of design, a lot of engineering, a lot of performance for really good prices, and they're well spec'd, and are now moving to put their own parts, their own wheels with the Cadex range they launched last year at Tour de France onto these bikes. You're getting even better value and even better performance than ever before. Much of the new TCR? Well, I don't have UK prices yet. They haven't been announced. But in the US, you're looking at between $3,000 starting price up to about $11,000 for the range top end models. So bikes to suit all budgets, hopefully. I can't wait to see UK prices. I can't wait to see the bike in the flesh myself. Because of this lockdown, I've not been able to see the bike. Hopefully I'll get my hands on a bike to test soon, because I really can't wait to see how it performs and see what the 9th generation TCR is like to ride, and see if it brings back memories of that race winning performance all those years ago. So that's a new Giant TCR Advanced SL. It should be available fairly soon. Difficult to tell with the lockdown period at the moment. A bit of uncertainty as well going on. But hopefully it'll be in shop soon, and as soon as the lockdown is lifted, we can get out riding, and the TCR might be on your shopping list if you're in the market for a new bike. But that's everything you need to know about the new TCR Advanced. Available soon, hopefully. Got any questions, any thoughts, any opinions on the bike, get it down in the comment section below. Let me know what you think of it. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like button if you enjoy watching it. Give me a big thumbs up. And also, if you really enjoy this content, make sure you subscribe to my channel for loads more bike reviews and tech first looks coming up soon. So yeah, make sure you hang around. But for now, thanks for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you again soon.